Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we're bringing back Chris Biscardi. Chris, what's up? How are you?
You know, I'm doing pretty good, other than the double audio that I just had in my headphones that I had to turn you off. So, doing great. Great start. Hello, everybody.
Good. We're doing great here. No, we're off to a great start. Look at the chat. The chat is popping off. Welcome, everybody. It looks like we got the whole Party Corgi Discord up in here. How's everybody doing? It is, yes, we are very ready for toast puns. And Serverless Mom has a wish that all chat today is toast puns, which I would say is, yeah, that should be how it goes. All toast puns. All right. In that case, maybe we should warm up the oven here and say, Chris, for those of us who aren't familiar with your work, could you give us a little bit of a background?
You ever get one of those questions where your mind just blanks? So I've been doing development, engineering, software, startup-y work for about, a little over 10 years now. Started out freelancing, then went to Docker, built a team at Docker, spent about 2 years there, went back to consulting, built a design systems team at Dropbox, went back to consulting, did some work for Gatsby, built themes, built some other stuff, built Gatsby plugin MDX, developed a weird specialty in like Jamstack meta frameworks. So like, yeah. And then I also teach people Rust and do a bunch of serverless stuff these days. So that's my
So not much really is what you... No, I think this is great. Like I've been following your career for a while now, and one thing that I've noticed is that you've got a great ability to not get stuck in like what is now and kind of focusing on what's possible with today's tooling, but you always seem to be looking one or two steps in the future at where we could be if we actually push the tools to the full capability of what they're doing. And you know, kind of speaking of that, it feels like that's what's happening when it comes to Toast, is that you're not looking to use a sports metaphor. You're skating to where the puck is going to be.
Nice pull.
That's a Wayne Gretzky quote. See, I know sports. I can do more than one thing.
I know who said it.
But yes.
I'm a sports person.
Okay, I am also a sports person. No, I'm not a sports person, but I do really like that quote, because I think it kind of shows what I like that as a metaphor for strategic thinking, because you know the thing that I've always disliked is when it feels like you watch tools kind of scramble to implement each other's features. And I think that, you know, that's something that kind of bums me out, is I always want to see people thinking about, okay, well, what's possible now? And what, if we did just one thing better, what could be possible? And so when it comes to Toast, it feels like that is that's the gamble here. The gamble is that if we bet on the modern web, then we can have all of these benefits. So do you want to talk a little bit about what those benefits are? Or actually maybe talk about what betting on the modern web means first.
Yeah, I guess the way that I think about it is that like there's a design space of like things you could build, right? And things that people could use. And like everybody, or like not everybody, but like a lot of people are over here in this space, which is like built on top of Webpack and heavily bundled and compiled and etc., using faux ESM at this point, and like compiling it all with CommonJS and then doing a bunch of stuff and like all of that kind of things. That's like really, really well explored at this point, right? Like Gatsby does it, Next does it, like 50 million other tools also do it. So when I was thinking about Toast, what I was thinking about is like, okay, well, if I'm gonna like build yet another one, what is going to be interesting to like explore? And that pointed me to like this area of the design space over here that was like just coming to, I don't know, maturity might be the right word, but like we can use like ES modules in the browser now, right? And in Node. Like it went stable this month, and like that's really cool.
Yeah.
So the idea that we might not even need to bundle anything at all to get like a working performant website is really interesting. So I wanted to explore that a lot. And then There's also like, you'll hear it in any place that talks about like static site generators, like build times are a concern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's going to be a concern as long as the tools that we use are built in JavaScript, right?
Right.
Nothing against JavaScript, love JavaScript. There are better tools with better memory management and better performance characteristics, and more interesting libraries and crates and things like that, that we can use to build the tools that people then use in JavaScript.
Yeah.
So the switch from thinking of JavaScript as like the be all end all, do everything in JavaScript, to being the like user side scripting language, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and I think like you bring up something interesting because I think there's something happening here that you're getting at that might sound really familiar, but I think there's a difference. And so I want to talk about it a little bit, which is that you have like when you talk about using a language that's better suited for memory management and performant builds, Hugo is in this space, right? And Go is going to beat the pants off of JavaScript for build performance every time, which is why Hugo is just screaming fast. But the issue that you run into with Hugo is that I'm not writing JavaScript when I build my site. I'm writing Go. I have to write Go templates and I'm using like little bits of Go logic to generate HTML. And that feels really like I'm not a Go developer. And so when you're talking about using something other than JavaScript in Toast, is that going to like, am I going to have to write Rust to use Toast?
No. So like the idea here is that there's a Rust core that powers everything, and that the user of Toast doesn't have any idea it's actually built in Rust. Like they should never have to know.
So and what that looks like is, so I'm just going to like npm install Toast, and
Yeah.
there's no indication at all that this isn't just JavaScript.
Right.
That's cool.
A yes or no question. So.
Yeah, that is a yes or no question. That's very cool. And so okay, cool. So how do like what does this open up for us? Like when we start looking at this, it sort of sounds like you're proposing a case where we can, to a certain extent, have our cake and eat it too here.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what cake you want.
I mean, I'm a chocolate fan myself.
More of a blended cake person.
Like like those rainbow unicorn cakes, like the hey, what's up, Michael? Thank you for showing up. The bald bearded builder is here. I hope you've lit a terrible smelling candle in honor of that subscription. For those of you who don't know, you can make Michael light terrible smelling candles on his stream, so make sure you go check that out. Let me do a little shout out to.
I'm glad it's them. I'm glad the candle is in their apartment.
Yeah. Same. Oh, looks like my subscription for Socket Studio wore out, so I need to go fix that. Oh well. All right. So okay. So Toast is built in Rust, and when you're talking about Rust is like I saw a thing come out the other day that I thought was really interesting, which was a comparison of like energy consumption by language, and Rust was like the only thing faster than Rust was C, which is fascinating because I kind of thought that in order to get something that performant that it would have to be ultra low level and kind of, very difficult to use, right? And I had Prince on the show a little while back. Let me find a link to that episode. And Rust did not feel that way.
Yeah, Rust is like super approachable for JavaScript developers, first of all. Like I teach JavaScript people Rust all the time these days. And they pick it up pretty quickly. They get through a couple exercises and they're like, oh, this feels a lot like JavaScript. It does have things that are not like JavaScript as well. But it feels a lot like JavaScript when you're writing it and reading it and things like that.
Yeah. So that's really cool. And like it's got a very nice kind of error management. It's really good at telling you when something is wrong and where you can go look to fix it. Thank you for the sub. Oh, Gators is just gifting subs all over the place. Thank you so much. Welcome to, I've been calling it the Boop Crew, and I feel silly every time I say it, and I think that's a good reason to keep saying it. So welcome to the Boop Crew. Make sure you spam those boops. You do have an opportunity to bury Chris and I in boops today. And Chris is tall, so it's going to take a lot of boops. So
Boop pit or something. like like those little ball pits that you used to hang out in.
Yeah, it's like that, but like a little bit less gross. So okay, so like talking about Rust, it could be. Oh, here we go. We're done for you. But so talking about Rust. This is it. This is it. Okay, bye. So talking about.
I can get up there.
I know. So look, Chris is significantly taller than me. I think this camera angle doesn't even really do us justice. Once the boop's clear, we can do a more like
My face
true to life.
Already.
Yeah, you're back. I'm like, here's me. Just no, okay, all right. Just everybody look at the top of my head. So when we're talking about Toast, we mentioned Rust. I think that might immediately sound scary to somebody, but
sure.
I think it's important to call out, like, when I'm building a Toast site, what is my workflow? Like, what am I actually doing?
It's very similar to anything like a Next or a Gatsby site. You've got your like source pages, and you've got like your create page equivalent call and things like that. So like you've got the things that you're used to.
Okay.
Like they might be called different names. Like I think our equivalent of create page is called set data for slug right now.
Okay.
For reasons that I can get into later. But like,
sure.
But it feels very familiar, right? Like you create a file at source pages index.js, you get a page at source pages index.js.
Nice. Okay. Cool. So, I mean, I guess maybe the easiest way to talk through this would be to just kind of do it, right? So maybe we should switch over. So as we're switching over, let me do a quick shout out to our sponsors. We have live captioning today. It's available at lwj.dev/live. You're able to see the stream up at the top, and you can see the live captioning coming in here, I hope. Oh no, did we lose our captioner? Oh no. Uh-oh, why is the captioning not working?
I know.
Well, that's... uh-oh. Might be having some technical issues there, but that the captioning is usually provided by White Coat Captioning. We'll figure out what's going on with it today. And that is made possible by Netlify, Fauna, Sanity, and Auth0, who all pitched in to make this show more accessible to more people, which I really appreciate. And I'm going to figure out what's going on. Let's see. Maybe we reload here. See what's going on with the... Oh, here it is. Okay, so that was just a reload on my part, so that I'm not sure why that was going on. But here we go. We're all good. So the live captioning is working. Thank you, White Coat Captioning, for providing that for us. Also, make sure you go and follow Chris on Twitter. It's at Chris Biscardi. And you can find out more about Toast at toast.dev. So, I'm ready. I'm ready to toast my first site.
How do you like your toast?
I think on those charts, those like toast alignment charts to like not toasted to burnt crisp, I fall like I want it to be.
We need a sandwich chart for toast.
Ooh, I think we do.
Like,
hold on, like
evil toast.
Toast doneness chart. Here we go. All right, everybody.
Ooh.
All right, everybody. Find your toast doneness. But none of that. Whatever that is, I just want to look at the image. All right, what is your toast doneness? I think I'm like
what is A and 1R? Like what's the X and Y axis for
so it's a graph, right? So like my toast doneness you could say is like D6. It's like Battleship.
You sunk my toast.
You sunk my toast. All right, 4E. We got to vote for 4E. All right, I'm in on that. 4E. That's a good amount of doneness. 9J.
These are not s'mores.
That's a fact. Yeah, I think I can go anywhere from like
You're gonna have to get a new toaster with 9J.
I could go like C5 to like C7. I'm pretty okay in that range. That's pretty good for me.
I could live with like a diagonal of like 9D up. Like if you just take that diagonal and everything up and to the left.
Yeah, I mean, here
that.
like that's just bread, but it's.
Well. When does it become toast?
Yeah, exactly, right? I think this is the line. It's got to be more toasted than this, or else it's just bread. Yeah. Thank you so much for the sub, Eco. It's good to see you here. You ready?
Need to run either. What's your tool of choice? Yarn or npm or?
I've been doing a lot of npm lately.
Let's do npx create -toast and then just like a directory name.
Okay. So let's go toast site. How about that?
I mean, whatever you want, man. It's your computer.
And so what this is doing is this is running the create toast package, which is here, and it is then creating a new project in the folder called toast site. So if I go into toast site and let's open this and take a look at it.
Ooh, fancy alias.
We've got what appears to be a pretty straightforward site here. So we've got a post install. Okay, we can talk about what that means. But so we're bringing in Breadbox and we're bringing in Toast. So Toast we've talked about. What is Breadbox?
Breadbox is so originally we used Snowpack for singular purpose, basically. Like I mentioned before that Toast is ES modules only, or like ES modules first, or however you want to talk about that. But what it means is that we write our node code and our client-side code all in like real, true ESM. And a lot of packages on NPM are written in CommonJS.
Okay.
So Breadbox is a fork of Snowpack v1 right now that handles like transferring them from the CommonJS world into an ESM world.
Gotcha. Okay.
This is going to go away in favor of ES install, which is like Snowpack v2 has split that out as a separate package that we can now take in and use, and it'll be cleaner and it'll be in the Toast package. But
awesome. That's great to hear.
How we have to do it today.
Cool. So this is kind of a stepping stone. All right. So that's exciting. So that means then that so we've got this package. Brittany had a good question.
You can get rid of the yarn lock. The yarn lock is in the Git repo because I use yarn quite often and implemented it.
So if I just remove the yarn lock and run an npm install, it's going to create a package lock instead. So that's just the create toast.
I mean, even if you didn't remove the yarn lock, npm would create the package lock and be fine.
Yeah, it would just yell, "Oh no, what did I do?"
Oh, you have to use Node version 14, preferably 14.13 or higher, because 14 or 12 and 14 introduce ESM, like native ESM into Node.
Oh, okay.
Which means that you can write an ES modules file and it will just work in Node. You can just run it.
Got it.
14.13 allows us to import named exports from CommonJS modules. So there's a little bit of like interoperability that was introduced in 14.13. That's super useful. Technically, you don't need it.
So I'm doing something that if you've never seen this before, this is one of my favorite tools for just like getting things going quickly. I'm using NVM. And so with NVM, I was able to just install 14.13 and it installs Node and it runs that version. And then I can tell a project that it needs to use a certain version by doing this echo and then Node in parentheses into a .nvmrc. So when I run this, all this is going to do is create an nvmrc that says what version of Node we're working on. But then any of my colleagues can just do nvm use and it will install the right version. So this is a really, really handy thing if you're sharing tools or if you have to switch Node environments. I really, really like that as a way to quickly get set up. Okay.
Echo there?
Did what now?
I think you can just do node-v caret or whatever you call those.
What? Can you really? Well, my life just got easier.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Okay, so there's your pro tip is put it into nvm rc. There you go. And I do want to delete test. I don't need that anymore. All right, so then we've got this index.js, and this looks very familiar to me. This is a React component. So we've got props, we've got some JSX, and we are exporting a page. Our node modules we're not going to look at, and then we've got toast.js. And this has got... We're
just going to ignore the black hole that is node module.
Exactly, right. We saw the package JSON. That's as far as we're going to go. Cool. So this is very very little code, And so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to look at my package JSON, and we're going to do a npm run build.
Mhm.
What didn't you like? Toast command not found? Did something... Oh, I never finished my install because I did the nvm thing and then never installed again. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So now, yeah, here goes everything. And we can see it's running breadbox for us. And so it's now packaged.
That is because it's called the post install hook. So if you install stuff in this in this package, it'll run this post install hook after it installs stuff.
Oh, that's slick. And so what this has done, like we're running Snowpack, and Snowpack takes like the Preact JavaScript module or npm module and turns it into an ES module. And then we get a report of how big our site is. So right now, our site is hovering around like the 10 or 11 kilobytes mark.
Yeah.
That's
plus anything that's in the index.html, which is like a couple bytes or something.
Excellent. So that's pretty exciting. And so then if I do the npm run build again, we run our build, and I mean, this is one page, so this was extraordinarily fast.
So these progress bars are like helpful hints. They're not like absolute counters.
Got it. And
so
then
if you only have one page, it's not going to show here.
So that generates a public, and we get an index.html. And for the most part, yeah, so we're using like regular old imports. So this is ES modules. That's really exciting.
So the HTML that you get from this is includes an inline script here that is sort of like, quote unquote, the runtime, if you want to call it that. It's about 20 lines of code. It basically just imports a couple of things. You get a page wrapper if you want one. You get a component if you want one, and you get JSON data if you want one. Or if you want some, I guess would be English. And it just fetches those all using dynamic imports, because those just work in the browser now, and then uses them to render the page. So it's basically like this is our rehydration step, if you want to think of it like that.
That's really cool.
So we got the HTML, and then this is the client side.
And like, look how cool this is that we can just do this like import and a path, and then down here we just await for all of those imports to finish, and we get out this data. And like, we didn't need Webpack for that. We don't need any config. Like, this is just how browsers work, which this to me, I think is the most exciting part. I'm not getting syntax highlighting because I didn't initialize this as a directory. So let me close this real quick. No, it's because, so I have my dot files and like my whole home directory on GitHub. So I have a Git Ignore that ignores everything else. And if I don't initialize a new Git directory, then it just keeps everything ignored. So then what we can do is we can Git Ignore here, and I'm going to Git Ignore node modules. I assume I need to ignore that .temp, and I'm going to ignore public because those are all generated files.
And we can take a look at those too, if you want to.
These ones?
Well, public and .temp are probably the interesting ones, but yeah.
Okay, so here's .temp. We get an index.
And so you might want to like save this to prettier it to show it for the stream, but I don't know if your prettier on save is.
We're going to configure this to use prettier. There we go.
So this is just like your JSX compiled to whatever it usually compiles to.
Yeah.
And then nothing else has to change because nothing else has to change. Everything works.
The
files in
slick.
.temp are run in Node. The files in public are run in the browser.
Okay, cool. So this is a public, or like the web version. So we load Preact from web modules. We've got our web modules here with like the compiled web version of Preact, which is not going to be particularly interesting to look at. So I'm going to close it. And then we've got this index file that we looked at that's just dynamically loading all of that for us, which is really, really nice. And so this is really only going to grow by the scale of the components that we use, right? Like, we're not going to see more boilerplate get added. It's just like, now it's just code we write.
This additional code here that you're looking at right now actually doesn't change. This will not grow.
Excellent. That is really exciting. So
The only thing that grows is like if you add more components, it runs more code when you download your component and whatnot.
Nice. Okay, so then like if I want to serve this, this is one thing that is maybe a little different about Toast is Toast doesn't have like a dev server, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have a dev server. That's not like a philosophical thing. That's just a thing. Like we will eventually have one.
So what do you recommend for if we want to do that? Like, should I npx serve?
I usually do npx serve and then public. If you install serve to the package, then you can just run it locally. But
yeah, let's do that just for. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to open my console. We're going to npm install dev serve.
So yeah, the focus of Toast originally was on getting the incremental compilation working in the core and things like that, and getting the builds to work. So now that all of that is working, we will work on a dev server that will sort of like make the DX a little better. But all of this, like all of the fundamentals are here and they work.
Nice. So if we want to serve, I can do a serve public.
Mm-hmm.
And now if I npm run serve, this opens up localhost 5000, which I can open over here. And that is our basic Toast site. So what should I do next? Like, what do you want to build next year?
Let's pull in, I guess we could pull in Tailwind.
Okay.
Right? We could do, we could either do Tailwind or we could do MDX. What do you want to do?
I'm kind of down to do it. Maybe we can start with MDX and then we can style it all with Tailwind.
Sure.
Cool.
So you're going to install a package called @toast.dev/MDX.
Toast.dev like this?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
All right. And so this is going to get pulled in, and then as it gets pulled in, we should see that post install run. Did it need to?
It doesn't need to in this case, or actually it does need to, but we'll get to that.
Okay. All right. So I've got my MDX installed.
So have you went to the toast.dev MDX repo, right? That's where the docs live right now.
Toast.dev. I have Toast tools.
Yeah. So go into packages.
Packages.
Go into MDX.
Got it. Okay. So we did this part.
And you can choose one of the two options.
Fetch
I would
MDS.
probably choose the first one just because like it's easier. Like then we don't have to set up MDX. The bottom one lets you like if you want to run MDX yourself, you can do the bottom one.
Gotcha. Okay. So then this is going to we have all right. So let me actually just pull this to the side, and then let's pull this to the side. I'm going to open toast.dev, and in here we are using the source data, which is already set up for us, and we've got set data for slug here. So in it, I'm going to await source MDX and pass in set data for slug.
Yeah, so this is an interesting note. You're passing this function through, and like plugins and other ecosystems take control, right? So like plugins and Gatsby is like, hey, what plugins do you want to run? I'm gonna take those. I'm gonna walk over here and I'm gonna do them while like whatever. And Gatsby has control over how they run, when they run, if they run, all of that kind of thing. Like plugins, quote unquote, in Toast take the opposite approach. They just let you call whatever functions you want to call. And in this case, it's just a function that compiles some MDX and calls some set data for slug.
Nice. Okay, cool. Very cool. So here what we're saying then is if I write an MDX file in content, so that would be content, and it's at the top, or does it have to go in source?
Oh, it's at the top.
Okay.
We specified it at the top.
And then let's say we'll call it like myfirstblog.mdx.
Mm-hmm.
And for now, we'll just write one headline. That's going to be our first MDX post. And so then if I save this, what we should see I assume, is a new page get created.
Yes. So you have to run the build.
Okay, so let's build. npm run build.
Such a small, tiny terminal.
It looks like, I think it's because
your node version inside of your integrated terminal was not set to node 14 for whatever reason.
that actually that makes sense. npm run build. Do I need to run the post install, do you think?
You will, but we're going to talk about that when you see the... So this is the error that you get. And
Oh, wait, this is interesting. Okay.
so you haven't imported source MDX yet.
Okay, well, that's super helpful. Okay, so here's source MDX. MDX from
Source X.
toast.dev MDX. Yes. And now I actually have this, so it should work. Let's try. And it's actually fetching data, and our HTML is rendered. Look at that go. Okay, so that's cool. So then I can npm run serve.
Yep.
And we'll go back out here. And I'm going to try to go to posts my first blog. And it just works. Okay, so that's pretty slick. So let's take that a step further and like use some MDX stuff. So I'm going to create components, and we'll call it like, I don't know, let's call it image.js. And
let's do one thing before we do that. Check
Sure.
the client of the MDX page. So go inspect element.
oh no.
So this is the reason we use Snowpack, right? And I wanted you to run into this issue, so I didn't bring it up before.
Got it.
But basically, what we have to do is we have to like tell Snowpack that we're going to use at mdxjs/preact.
Oh, okay.
And if you go to the www.toast.dev repo, it will show you how to do this.
Here's toast.dev. Here's our code.
Go to package.json.
Okay.
And then scroll down to the Snowpack section. We can just copy basically this whole section.
Okay, so let's talk about what it does. I'll copy it first, and then we can walk through what it does.
Sure.
So here's my package.json. Drop this down here. Okay. So in this section, we're saying to exclude, and the exclude, I assume, is because Snowpack is going to try to scan directories. And
Yeah,
since
Snowpack does this thing where it like doesn't actually follow your imports to determine what's going to be included or not. It just kind of like scans the whole directory like Gatsby does, right? Like
Got
so if
it,
you have
okay.
like, you know how if you have like a .graphql file somewhere in your node modules, Gatsby will find it and be like, ha!
yeah.
Snowpack does the same thing.
Okay. Okay.
So that's why we're saying exclude public. Don't look at toast.js. Don't look at like these files that we're not actually going to include on our site.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. And so we're ignoring public because public is generated. We don't want to like recursively try to grab things.
Right.
And then we're ignoring toast because toast is node and it will never run in the browser, and we don't want to try to do that. Okay.
Right.
So then we have this alias. Now, because this is a project we're starting from scratch, theoretically, or wait, we still do need this, don't we?
We don't actually need this if we never include a third-party package that imports React.
Okay.
This is here so that when Snowpack touches your third-party dependencies, for example, React Helmet, right?
Mhm.
React Helmet is a React package, right?
Got it.
You can just use React packages with React. Like there's full 100% compatibility for everything that you want to use. The only thing is that we have to tell Snowpack like, hey, we're not actually going to import React here. We're going to import React Compat.
Got it.
So that'll do a little import rewrite.
And that's just to keep the rendered code base small, right? Because we don't want to have to import all of React. We're using Preact to keep things as compact as we can.
Yeah, I mean, we're using Preact for a couple of different reasons. One of which is that it's just smaller and faster and whatever. Another reason is that it ships an actual ESM build by default. React does not.
Oh,
So you could just use Preact in the browser by like itself, and like you don't have to do anything to it.
which is one of the things that I do really like about Preact. Like if you look at their docs, they have a browser only Where's their actual like get started? There's like a browser only version that you can just like look at. Yeah, you can just drop this into any page and that will work because it's just pulling in the module version of Preact. And that, I think, this is what we were talking about, like betting on the future of the web here. Because if I understand this correctly, this entire section of config is not because of Toast. It's because we're trying to make other modules compatible with the modern like browser standard way of writing modules. Is that correct?
Right. So basically what we're doing here is we're taking any third-party dependencies that were written in like the old way of writing stuff with CommonJS and whatnot, work with the new way. And then in the future, ideally, enough people write in ESM because that's where everything is going. And then we don't need to do this processing anymore. And we just kind of like take this dependency and throw it away.
And so, and this is, I think, like, what I love about this is adopting that idea of disappearing code, right? What we're building for is what's built into the browser. And all the config that's happening here is code that is made to make the rest of the ecosystem compatible with the browser. So as everybody shifts, as the community starts writing for the browser by default, this code becomes less and less important until you get to drop a huge amount of code from Toast entirely.
Yeah, I mean, we basically get to drop Snowpack, which will be ES install, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you
awesome.
just get to like not worry about the fact that there are people writing in CommonJS or whatever, and you just get to ship regular stuff. You also want to get rid of that amplify-esm entry point. That is a thing from www.toast.dev.
Got it.
We don't
Okay.
use.
And so we're currently importing this MDX Preact, and because we're not actually importing it, but because it's being brought in by this part here by source MDX, Snowpack can't find it, and that's why it doesn't automatically post install, right?
Yes, we aren't importing it from one of our JavaScript files. This is actually generating a new JavaScript file for us, and that JavaScript gets generated into public and into temp. So Snowpack can't find it, and we just told it to ignore everything in public. So like it won't find it anyway.
Nice. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run build and serve kind of back to back so that we can quickly stop and restart.
Do the post install.
Oh yeah. npm run post install, and that's going to give us the breadbox. And so now we will see there's our MDX.js. And because it uses hooks, apparently we also bring in hooks. So
it doesn't use hooks. We just put that in our config. That's why it came in.
Oh.
Which
Yeah,
is totally
here it
fine.
is.
Like
Here it
it's 2 kilobyte file. It brought leads to 1 kilobyte. Like,
which also,
I mean,
like,
we're going to use hooks somewhere.
all of React hooks down into 1 kilobyte is such a cool project. Preact is so cool. I'm really hoping to get I want to get Jason on the show to talk about that because
That would be awesome.
it's such a
definitely
cool
show up for
project.
that.
But yeah, okay. So now when I reload, that is gone. And if we look at the network tab, we should see here's Preact, here's hooks, and I think I think that's as high as I can scroll. But yeah, so we can kind of see what's coming in, and I just realized that I'm preserving the log, so this is showing lots and lots of things. But we can see like what actually gets brought in, and it's not that much stuff. We've transferred 13.9 kilobytes, and this is a rehydrated React API compatible page, right?
Yeah.
That's
so this is
amazing.
Like, when we talk about like building React apps and how they're so heavy and et cetera, like that doesn't have to be true. That's true because we like throw everything through Webpack and we bundle everything up and we ship the entire bundle, which is like code for every single page on the site all in one thing or like two things or whatever, right? Like we don't have to ship megabytes and megabytes of JavaScript.
Yeah, and like to show how we can, like, just a quick one, let's do Preact hooks, and we can ship a little component. So we will export. I called it a component. What component is the word that I was trying to use? Jeez. Export default function counter, and that doesn't get any props, but it will use a state. So we'll say count set count equals use state 0.
This is Jason's future interview.
And
he is excluded from all future counter-based whiteboarding interviews.
Exactly. Yeah, this is the true secret of Learn with Jason is I just wanted to make sure that I never had to whiteboard again. I can be like, look, I have hundreds of episodes of me whiteboarding.
I've written counters. I've written binary. Okay, I haven't written binary trees, but I.
So we can do set count to count +1, and then we'll say clicked count times. All right, so that is our button. Now, if I want to include this button, can I just so I want to be able to use it right here.
Mm-hmm. So you have two options.
Okay.
One of them is the MDX Provider, in which case you don't need to import anything into MDX. And the other one is you can just import it.
And so I can just import it straight up.
Import it. You can import it. You'll import from /source/components with no dot on the front.
No dot on it.
Yeah, because we're importing a URL now.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay. So then if I stop and restart.
It's time to schedule a Learn with Jason where we do binary trees.
What just happened?
Good luck.
I missed a thing. It says module not found, cannot find my counter. Why can't you find my counter?
Because it has to be relative.
Relative, so dot
not,
slash.
We're not actually, yeah.
Okay.
I misled you. I was like, oh, we're doing everything in the browser. We're not doing everything in the browser. It has to run in Node too. So you have to actually do the...
Still says module not found, so it's...
Yeah, do the thing that you were going to do. I misled you.
Oh, Chris.
I was wrong.
But so, all right, so check this out. Check this out. We now have a counter, right? And this is a React counter, and we have transferred 14.6 kilobytes to the browser. That is so sick. Like I am just absolutely blown away by how much of a difference that makes versus, if this was just plain React, if this was a Gatsby site, like a Gatsby site would be 300 kilobytes already. And so this is a really, really big win for us.
I was like, I don't know. I haven't built a Gatsby site in a while.
But yeah, I mean, the runtime for Gatsby, the runtime for Next, and all of them, because they include React, right? It's React is big.
React is big. It's not just React.
Sure.
The reason that everything is big, but yes, React is bigger than Preact.
Yeah, and so we're getting this is like a big drop, right? And that is really, really nice from a kind of development standpoint. But yeah.
So one of the things that I would love to point out here is that we're building MDX based pages now, and this page will not affect any other page on your entire site. So if you wanted to drop a Unity 3D game on here, you could, and that's not going to blow up your bundle. It's not going to blow up the rest of your site. It's not going to do all of that kind of stuff. And you can just keep writing content if you would like to.
And actually, this I think is hugely important, because what you just said is one of the things that kind of plagues, I think, a lot of sites, where if we look again at this network tab, we will see in here that somewhere...
You have to clear your network first. Well, the counter's right there if you're looking for the counter before you do that.
Yeah. So here's our counter. And so we have brought this in, right? So if I go to the other one, which I called another post, I think, and we look for a counter, it didn't get pulled in. We didn't include that code. It's not bundled. If you use MDX on a Gatsby or a Next site, typically speaking, the components get kind of hoisted up to the MDX provider, which means that even if you don't use that component on a post, it'll still show up in the bundle for every post.
That's true for everything too. That's not just true for MDX.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So basically, you can't, without doing some stuff, you can't guarantee that your code doesn't just kind of linearly scale. Every time you write new code, it shows up on every page, and that's just how things are.
Does it get bundled if you use the MDX provider? You mean in Gatsby and Next? Yes, definitely.
Well, what if we used it here? Like if we go to the MDX provider, it would be bundled, right?
It's not bundled. It just is imported and used.
But would it still be like provided to, like if we put the counter into the MDX provider, would it be on this page?
It would be in your page wrapper if you were using the MDX provider, or you could put it in. So there's this thing where you can like choose what page wrapper you want on any given page. We have source/page wrapper, which maybe we want to use right now and show off. But like, if you put it in that page wrapper, it will be on every page because that page wrapper is like needed. You're saying that this code is needed for every page.
Right.
That isn't like a technical restriction. That's a decision that you made.
So the choice would be like, so as a kind of practical example of this, if you have a blog and on your blog you have images and like asides or call outs that show up very frequently, it would be a pain in the butt to have to import that on every single blog post. So you can put those in the provider. But then if you have like a New York Times style data viz where as you scroll down the page, things are flying all over the place, you're bringing in a bunch of like charting libraries, or as Chris said, you're bringing in like Unity. That doesn't make sense. You only use that on one page in your site. So it would make sense in that case to import it just on the post that you're using it in. So it's more of like an architectural decision. You're trading off, you might load the aside component sometimes without using it in the post, but it's kind of tiny. It's not that big of a deal.
There's
we can
third
live with
option
that.
too.
Oh, ooh, I like third options. What else can we do?
Because dynamic importing just works, we can just dynamically import it and render a fallback on the server.
What?
So like you could provide it in the MDX provider, but the implementation of your component could be a dynamic import to pull in whatever. So like you can just stick everything in your MDX provider if you wanted to, and it could be powered by a dynamic import. And this gets into a little bit of like the suspense stuff, like the suspense React lazy things. So like suspense, as you may know, doesn't have full support for server-side rendering. So you currently have to like render your own fallback.
Right.
So I would only do this currently for stuff that you want to like pull in on the client conditionally.
Right.
But if that component doesn't get rendered through MDX, it won't get used.
Interesting.
So it won't get imported.
Got it. Okay. No, that's really cool.
You could provide something to every MDX file, for example, in the page wrapper, and theoretically it could never hit the site.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's start by showing how to use the page wrapper. So if I want to do that, where do I put a page wrapper?
So there's a default page wrapper in source / page-wrapper.js.
Page-wrapper.js.
And it's a React component that renders some children.
Okay, so I'm going to import H. And so in what I'm doing with the import H is the same as import React from React. This is just the Preact way of doing it. And so
it's
then
the create element equivalent specifically. So H in Preact is create element in React.
Got it. And so am I doing, is that right?
Sure.
Okay.
Just the default export.
Okay. And then I assume I'm going to get, is it children or something else?
Children.
So it's just plain old React, which is what I love. And so then I can do like, oh, I can't do a fragment though, can I? I need to do something else.
I mean, you can do a fragment, but if you do a fragment, there's no like ID on the fragment and stuff like that. So like you'll cause yourself some pain.
Okay, so
I would do a div because it's your page wrapper and you're like declaring what you're going to wrap the site with.
Okay.
Which is probably going to be something. If you're page wrapping your site with nothing, then
well, what I was thinking is just from the standpoint of like, so semantics, if we've got like a header, a main, and a footer, I don't really care about this. Like that I can have as a thing, and then I would put the children in here, and this would be like home or something.
Yeah, I mean, like what you're doing here is you're React dot rendering a fragment at the root.
Okay.
Which is like kind of funky.
Okay, so maybe don't do that.
I would not do that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah, it's like you can technically do that, but I would not do that.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah. Can you give a fragment with the key? I have no idea. But this is good enough for now. So we've got our header, and that's going to give us like a little bit of information. And then we can like do some minor accessibility stuff here. We'll do a rel home so that people know that's to go home. And then we render the children inside of our main, and we've got our footer. And so if I stop and restart, is this just automatically going to show up on everything? Boom. Look at it go.
Now we have a page wrapper on the whole site.
That is really slick that just works. Cool. So this is, I can kind of see the power of what's going on here. Because like another thing that we looked at is we slug prefixed this with posts, but we could just like not do that. We could just leave that blank and our posts would show up however. And so we could do like our about page could be written that way. So there's a world where your toast site is like components and MDX pages to write content and import those components. So that is really nice.
Like John of MDX fame and some other things, but most relevantly MDX, writes his entire site in MDX. So like if you wanted to, you could point MDX at like source pages or whatever, and you would just get like all of your MDX as the pages and whatever, and then the page wrappers.
And does this would this like respect like if I do a subfolder.mdx, we would be able to theoretically go post sub folder. No.
So that would be a bug. I would consider that in the Toast or the MDX plugin. So if you want to look at the actual implementation, we can just like explain what it's doing, and then we can sort of explain why that doesn't work. Because this is kind of like the 80% use case plugin.
Got it. Okay, then we can leave that out for now then. So for now, you would have to like set up each folder. And you could do that, like we could do that by
you can also specify your own slug.
Ooh. Like,
so if you want to create that file again or create a different file or go to one of the existing files, we can change the slug.
Okay, so let's do like a sub folder MDX. And then do it like that.
And then above that, you're going to want to do export const meta, META. Equals object, and then in there you do a slug and specify what you want it to be.
So it would be like sub folder?
Yeah, I do slash. Yeah. And it'll render at sub slash folder now. And this is this is the MDX plugin doing the page creation.
Or wait, is it post subfolder? Here it is, yeah. So we prefixed with posts. So it picks up this slug and drops it on. So we have full control over all of that, which is really slick. So this I think is
it with posts when we checked and it didn't work.
It was okay, posts.
Cool. Right. That's a bug.
But yeah. So I mean, but this is really like this is powerful stuff. So you could basically do like, like Chris said, do source pages and then only do MDX and
You're putting source pages in the wrong option, but yes.
Oh, that's right. I am. All right. So if you do it right, though, but so this is a really powerful way to work, and it's a way that I've actually when I build sites that I want to get up quickly, it's one of my favorite ways to work because it lets me focus mostly on the content of the site, and I only have to get into React or doing markup or anything kind of JavaScripty when it's time to do something that's actually dynamic. And from the point of like here, this is a really nice workflow because as far as the content's concerned, I'm saying here's the thing, and then I want to drop in this interactive piece, but I don't want to have to like think about that, and I don't want to have to write JavaScript to write this up or style it or anything like that.
The live code block here or something.
live. There's the captions. Do a code block. So
Yeah. Do a code block and we'll do an MDX provider and have some fun.
So we can do like true. Okay. So then to start, this is just markdown, right? So when we come back out here, this was in my first post. So my first blog here. And
so it looks like this. It looks like this because I made a decision in the plugin to include a new element. So to use the Toast MDX plugin right now, you would want to provide a code block component in the MDX provider to render this.
Okay.
So this is giving you the Prism syntax highlighted version of your code.
Okay.
And it doesn't require you to ship the Prism.js runtime to the browser.
That's nice.
So you didn't import Prism, you didn't do anything like that. It's giving you, hey, here's what it would look like syntax highlighted, and you can choose to do whatever you want with it.
Nice. Okay.
So if you go to the page wrapper and you import MDX Provider.
And this is like this. And that's going to come in from this.
Yep.
Okay.
Or no, from MDX.js/Preact.
Oh.
So, yeah, Toast doesn't like wrap everything, so you're not like importing from like Toast plugin MDX or whatever. You're just using MDX.
Got it.
So you use your MDX provider. You can replace your lovely div if you would like to.
Hooray! It's gone. Okay.
And then this is components equals and then object.
Okay. And so here then I would want code block how?
Yeah, like type code block.
Like that?
Yeah. And then create a component. And the children are going to be the thing that you see. So you're going to, if you want it to be like just the Prism syntax highlighted stuff, you can return a div with dangerously set inner HTML here and then put the children in it.
Can I do this from memory?
You did. Just do that from memory.
Okay, so let's try that. Look how fast that builds.
There you go.
Heyo.
So this is a decision I made because dealing with the pre-element and the code element and like figuring out which one is which and then like overriding the pre-element and then like not overriding pre-elements if it's not actually a code block and all of that kind of decision making is super annoying in other ecosystems. So this is just like a thing I put on top of MDX. That's like a nice to have.
Yeah, and that's really slick because I think it's something that like we all have our opinions about how we want code to look and all those things. So like, if I just needed to get something shipped and I wanted to have a thing on it, I can just do a background color of say black and build this again. And there we go. We're done. I can ship that. We're finished as far as I'm concerned.
It's beautiful.
Right, but I mean, I think like if I'm just trying to get something out the door, the last thing that I want to do is like I feel like this is what kills my motivation in side projects is that I want to do something and then I spend so much time yak shaving little things like, oh, I want my syntax highlighting to be right. Oh, I need a way to add this like call out component. Oh, I need like I just did this on JSON.af where I spent like 2 days working on footnotes. Because I was like, oh, I like this footnote feature in Markdown, but like it doesn't really look good when you render it. So I had to, I ended up writing like a remark plugin to deal with my footnotes so that I like, you know what I mean? It's just like you end up with such a huge amount of yak shaving just to get the project done. So being able to walk in and say, just do my syntax highlighting. Like, I don't care. This is good enough. I would like to be able to ship my code blog today, please. And it's done. That to me is huge. So we have working React hooks. We've got syntax highlighting. We're still at 16 kilobytes for page size, so I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty happy about this. We've got a customizable page wrapper. What if I want to do like a custom page wrapper? Like I want my blog to look a little bit different.
You want a custom page wrapper? You have a custom page wrapper.
Well, but if I want one that's only going to show up for like my posts here.
Oh, I actually didn't implement that yet.
Oh, okay, cool. Then
you can on your page wrapper determine whether you're on the like slash post suffix and then change the way that you render stuff.
And we would just do that with like a use effect or something.
I mean, you can do it however you want, really.
Yeah.
Probably use effect. Well, not use effect because use effect doesn't happen on the server. But you can you get props into this page wrapper, like anything you pass into any of the pages.
Oh, okay.
So you would be able to know.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But in the future, if you want to look at the toast.js file for a second, or I guess we didn't use set data for slug, did we?
Not yet.
So set data for slug. What's the best way to look at this? So actually, you got autocomplete here, didn't you? Oh no, that's not accurate.
No, I think that's just everything that's on the page.
So set data for slug allows us to set data, a component, a page wrapper, and the slug that it's applied to. So if you set data for slug, the first argument is the slug. So if you want to create a new page at like slash, like the first argument, positional, not in the object.
Oh, like positional. I understand.
Yeah. Because the only thing that's required, absolutely required in this call is the slug.
Got it.
So you're setting data for this slug, so slash about. Yeah, we could write a component for sure. Just like, I don't know, JSON stringify the props or something.
That's a good idea. Yeah. So we'll export default.
We've done that before.
Function about, and we'll get in the props. And this will return pre, stringify props, and we'll prettify them a little bit.
Vinny, if you want to use a custom Prism theme today, you would have to use the other approach and use this plugin, which is the plugin that powers everything. And then you could pass in the Prism theme there. Nice.
Okay. Yeah. And so we just time checking because I want to make sure we get to it. We've got about 25 minutes left. So we should make sure we get to Tailwind as well.
Cool. We could do that. So let's finish this up first then. So set data for slug. We can set the component to, so actually something that's really interesting here is you can set this component to a source code string. So do component, and then do an object, do mode source.
Oh, object, mode, source, like this.
And then value. And then I'm going to ask you to write a React component in here without using JSX.
Like this? Oh, I
like
see what you mean. So like h div null h. No.
It's a whole source file. So something that would be really easy is if you go into public and you grab the index.js script. It's already compiled for you. Just to show this off, grab this.
Oh, I see. So you're saying like I can
this inside of a string here.
Got it. Okay.
And you need to change that import to be from React and not from web modules because it'll get processed.
Okay.
So this is just showing off the fact that the component can take raw source if you want it to.
Sure.
Actually, now that I think about it, it can take JSX. I misled you.
So we could, and we could just like, so we could do something like,
you can export default here, and then instead of the H, just do the div. Yeah.
So we'll get our children, and then we can return a div with our children, and that's it, right?
True. You're not going to get children because this is a component, a page component, and not a page wrapper. But yeah.
Page component and not a page wrapper. Oh, so I'm like replacing this
is just
entirely.
props. Like take the on page 15 or line 15 where you have children.
Yeah.
Just write props. It's a regular React component, right?
Got it.
And then JSON does stringify the props here, and we'll see the props come in.
Got it. Okay.
And then
I think I have a rogue. I do.
Probably. You usually wouldn't do it this way. I'm just trying to like skip us through it.
Sure.
Like you could read in a file and pass it in here or something like that, which would be much more reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
So on the same level as component, create a key called data. And just pass in any data you want. Like, I don't know, JSON is cool, true.
I don't want to lie to people. All right, so I've created this, and then if I go to about, there's
your
some boops
wrapped in the page wrapper.
Excellent.
Rendering your custom component.
Cool.
So this is actually the way that the MDX stuff works. The MDX stuff comes in here as source and then gets rendered out.
Awesome. Very cool. So I'm going to delete that about.js so it doesn't confuse people. But this, like, that's slick, and it's really nice that we're able to just like do that. Okay, so if I want to bring in Tailwind, how would I do such a thing?
So if you look at www.toast.dev, it'll have the Tailwind config in here. So we have to install. Sorry, I couldn't find the word. We have to install Tailwind CSS, post CSS CLI.
Post CSS and post CSS CLI.
Yeah, post
CSS. I jumped the gun.
CSS CLI. And I have Tailwind CSS UI in here as well. But that's because I pay for it. And
so we won't be doing that, I assume.
Oh, well, this is, yeah. I mean, we don't have to do that. We can just do regular Tailwind. But I do have a license, and this is my project because I'm walking you through it. So.
Okay. I mean, I'm down to do whatever. I just don't want to get anybody into trouble.
Grab Tailwind CSS UI as well, and we'll just we'll throw some code in here, and then we'll take it out before we publish the repo.
Okay.
Because it'll be easier to show off if I can just you a couple of
fair enough. Yeah.
Tailwind components.
Okay. So now I have installed these, and
so now we need to set up the config for Tailwind, and that's Tailwind's config.
If
you look at the post CSS -config folder.
Is it not running my post install?
You're doing individual package installs, right?
Yeah.
So you're not actually installing.
Oh, so like I get it. I understand. So we'll run the post install again after we've written some code.
We don't actually need to in this case because we're not running anything on the client. But yeah.
Wait, for real?
Well, yeah. Tailwind doesn't run anything on the client.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know Tailwind at all.
So yeah, I mean, it's just a CSS thing, right? Like we're just running post CSS CLI.
Okay.
We'll need to use React Helmet at some point, and then we'll have to do it. But like.
Okay. So how do I?
So this post CSS config folder is the folder that we care about.
Post CSS config. Got it.
Yeah. So you'll see a package JSON in here, a post CSS.config.js, and a tailwind.config.js. Where you can just copy these over. The one that I want to talk about a little bit is the package JSON. Because Toast is ESM, we put our post CSS config in a subfolder and use this little like flag package JSON file to tell Node that everything in here is going to be common JS stuff. Because post CSS and Tailwind don't yet use like ESM config.
Got it. Okay, so post CSS config, and then we got a package.json. We tell it that it is common JS. Okay.
So this is not actually creating a new package. This is just saying like, hey, the files in this folder, treat them as common JS.
Got it. Post CSS config. Post CSS config.js. Is it .config?
Yes, I believe so.
Post CSS.config.js. I'm going to drop this in here.
That's just a convention.
So that brings in Tailwind CSS. Do I need to install auto prefixer?
I don't think so. I think it comes with post CSS at this point.
Okay,
but it's
cool.
possible that it doesn't.
I guess we may get an error.
We will
but
find out.
yeah, we'll find out very quickly if something is wrong. And then we've got our Tailwind config. So the default theme.
And a couple of features and stuff. And like,
Okay.
most of these don't matter. The purge will only run purge CSS when node env is production. So
Okay.
we actually we can choose to use or not use any of these themes because the default theme is just passed in anyway.
Okay. So we could probably leave most of this out. I'm not going to worry about the font family. Purge. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So this all seems good. Anything specific that we want to look at here?
Index.css in the root is going to be our CSS file of choice.
Okay. Index.css in the root. In the root of here. Got it?
I mean, we can realistically put this anywhere. I put it in the root because that's where I put it. And that's where I configured it to be.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that. Okay. I have done it.
The only other thing is that we need a build step for CSS. So in the scripts, there's a build :CSS script that I have that runs post CSS CLI.
Like that? I should probably look at this command.
Well, yeah. So it points to the index.css and then it puts it out in public. So
got it.
Like the point here is that we are just configuring post CSS. This has nothing to do with Toast, really.
Okay.
And so, that's one of the things about Toast is that we let you just use things in the ecosystem. So if there's an easier way, like the Tailwind CLI, you can use that. If there's a harder way and you need more customization, you can go and install your custom post CSS plugins and do whatever you want, because you have full control over that.
Nice. So I just built this and it should have built out to styles.css. It did. Excellent. Okay. And so then I don't know what to do next.
If you look in the page wrapper in www, there's going to be a style.css in React Helmet.
Page wrapper.
So basically, we just need to get our style.css in the head somehow. If you look for Helmet, it should be in there.
Here we go.
So
okay.
That's just that first line is all we really need.
Okay.
With the Helmet call, but
So that means that I need to install React Helmet. Do not?
No, I think it's already installed.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So then I'm going to go in here. I'm going to import Helmet.
Capital H Helmet, because we're the NFL.
From React Helmet. And then...
if I send you a message in Discord with some code, will you get it? Or should I do it?
Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay.
So I think I can just stick this in like this.
Yeah, you can put it anywhere, really.
Okay. And that should be good. And let's open this. Do you want me to keep this just off screen or?
It's fine. It's so much code that nobody would be able to just grab it and use it anyway.
Okay.
You're gonna copy this whole thing, so hit the raw and just
got it.
Except for that top comment. The top comment is we're gonna comment or we're gonna get rid of that. But
okay, so I'm copying, and then down here I'm gonna put this
it anywhere, like index.js or something.
Okay.
Replace everything, I guess. I think it's in a wrapper, right? Yeah. So, we just copy and pasted raw HTML.
Something broke.
That's what yeah. So we copied and pasted raw HTML. The things that we're going to be looking for are any HTML comments. We don't need class name. You can get rid of that.
What? Hold up.
It just works in Preact.
Come on.
We do need to either comment out or get rid of these HTML comments because those don't work.
Okay.
And then the other thing that you'll need to look for is if there's an image HTML doesn't self-close image tags, and JSX does. So you'll have to close those. But those are the only changes. Like you don't have to do the whole class name dance. You don't have to do that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I think these are something's not working, and I don't know why.
Keep looking for comments and image tags. Those are the two things that I saw in there. That would be the
image tag. So those are fine.
okay. Look for HTML comments.
No HTML comments.
The streamer perspective of a small code editor really doesn't come in handy.
I know,
like this.
Okay, so what I'm wondering is we've got this here. Yeah, red lines near the bottom of the page is a whole other thing.
You just scroll through it. Scroll through it slowly once.
Like, what's that about? Oh, wait,
BR.
here's unclosed BR, so let's find more of those.
Probably should have sent this through a JXX converter before I sent it to you.
Oh, there we go. That worked. That worked. It was the BR.
Cool.
Okay, so then
just build the site. So the only toast specific thing we did was put the style tag in the helmet call.
yeah. Okay. And let's go to the index page.
So it has a bunch of styles in it.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, there we go.
But look at
now
this.
we
So
have,
so there's our
markers.
wrapper. Like, you know, this is the part that I put in and the footer, and then inside is all Tailwind. So that's slick. And so this is part of Tailwind UI. Like, this is one of the layouts that if you pay for a license, they just like give this to you.
Yeah, basically like this is one of their like hero components or whatever.
That is
and
slick.
it comes with a navigation and some hero stuff and things like that. And I've been really enjoying using it. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that's pretty handy. So we will not be including the source code in the repo.
not the Tailwind UI stuff anyway.
Right.
We'll rip that out.
Okay. So I guess we can probably like just bring this all back. Here's our original. And then if we wanted to use like regular Tailwind stuff,
You could do
chat,
class equals whatever.
remind me what would be like some Tailwind classes if we wanted to, let's center this div and give it some border or something.
BG pink 400
BG
dash pink dash 400.
400. Okay.
Anything else, chat? Tailwind users.
Class is okay. I'm still kind of blown away by this, that just works. Text center. Oh, Eco's got the whole thing. Flex.
Flex item center, justify center. Center it on the page entirely.
Let's do it. I love it. Let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Let's see how this goes. And not knowing any Tailwind, that just made sense to me. And
There you go.
it looks like it didn't quite work because we've got it wrapped in a bunch of other stuff, but that's still pretty slick.
Well, it worked because it's only on the index.js page, right? We didn't put it in the page wrapper. So you're not wrapping the page in the pink border or anything.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So this did what we wanted it to do. Like that's pretty cool stuff. And I love that, you know, this is pretty human readable. This all makes sense. It seems like we can probably get away with skipping that part. And so we've got.
And so begins the CSS adjustments.
But yeah, look at it.
The
So
site
this is great, right? And then if we want to do like padding and stuff too, you just like put in numbers.
P-4, P-32, P-Sherman Wallaby Way.
That's cool. I got to do like a real Tailwind episode.
Yeah, you do.
But yeah, so this is great. I mean, this is really powerful stuff. I think we've got some, you know, and I think this is like really fun. I should talk to Adam. That would actually be great. Yeah, if anybody has
He's
a,
also asking what the index.js size is.
how big is the index.js? Let's look. 373 kilobytes.
Well,
so
the index.js is what they were asking about.
oh,
Not the whole
index.js.
site. the whole site is 370 kilobytes,
Uh,
including
index.js came back as 178 bytes. We've got, let's see.
I'll also point out that the total page size right now for the development site is gigantic. If you see the 4.6 megabytes of resources, and we've jumped quite a bit in 373 kilobytes because the Tailwind development version of the styles.css ships 4.5 megabytes.
Got it. So how do we fix that? Like, what do we?
You would have to use node_env equals production and then do the CSS build. I do the buildle typo all the time.
Yeah, it's like that's got to be my number one. All right, so let's try this again. We just did a production build on Tailwind.
Yeah, you probably could have just refreshed. You didn't need to like build the site again
There we go.
because the CSS file was already.
Oh yeah, so I don't need to rebuild. That's
It's one of those habits that you get really used to using other like frameworks and tooling and stuff, and like, yes, I made a change. I need to rebuild everything. You don't actually.
But okay, so here we go. So 11.1 kilobytes transferred, 47 kilobytes total size, and that is a Tailwind site using React or Preact and MDX and a whole bunch of stuff. So this is like, it just feels to me like if what we're after is we want to build extremely interactive sites, like that's the argument for using something like React or Vue or any framework, is you want to be able to do these really interactive, really responsive, frequently updating sites. And the other argument is that when you ship that much stuff to the browser, it hurts the user experience. It's not great for people in emerging markets on 3G phones or people who are paying by the megabyte for data. It sounds like this is something like using ES modules, using Preact, we start working toward a world where like both things can be true. You can ship a great user experience that doesn't use a lot of data and also have really interactive, really like dynamic and responsive sites. That's super cool. So what do you think? We've got a few minutes here left. What do you think is next here? Like what's coming that's gonna take this experience even further?
Like in the Toast world?
I mean, probably
like
Toast
in
is
our
the
episode.
Well, I think our episode is. I don't know that we're going to get much else done in our episode, but in the scope of like what's coming in Toast and what's coming down the pipeline that's going to make this even better, or like kind of what are you planning on next?
A bunch of quality of life stuff. Like we had a couple moments today where you were like, "I'm going to go back and rebuild," and the rebuild takes like 200 milliseconds or something like that, and like it's fine doing it by hand, but like it's fine doing it by hand, right? Like nobody wants to,
right?
So we'll set up like an automatic watcher and a build process, and like you'll be able to trigger whatever stuff and things like that. So it's a bunch of like quality of life stuff like that, a bunch of documentation, a bunch of examples, how to use X, how to use Y. Toast, a link to Toast McGregor is www.toast.dev, and the Git repo is toast.dev/toast on GitHub. Yeah, I mean that's really it. Like just quality of life stuff, making it more stable. There's a soft limit of like 20,000 pages right now, or something like that. So a 10K page site builds in about 40 seconds. We have a soft limit of like 20,000 pages right now because we pass arguments to a CLI to do the rendering.
Oh, okay.
That will get removed. So we'll end up seeing like, what does it look like to build a 100,000 page or a 500,000 page Toast site? And we don't know what that looks like yet. We do know that 10K pages is about 40 seconds if you do like regular Preact and Tailwind and whatnot, and you're not doing anything crazy.
But I mean, I think 40 seconds for 10,000 pages with like React and Tailwind that's not nothing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, sorry, I'm looking at it like what do I need to look at next, and like that sometimes it's like like what we have is really nice as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is like, I really, really love the idea here. I think this is super exciting. I'm in the Jason.af is a Toast site. The overlays that you're looking at right now on the show are actually a Toast site. So there's a lot of really interesting applications for Toast and what we can build with it. I'm really excited to see how far we can push this. Is there anywhere that we should? Oh, you triggered the stampede. I was wondering if you were going to get there, chat.
Did you bump that?
But yeah. So is there anywhere that you want people to go to either keep up with you, keep up with Toast, to get involved?
Yeah, there's a Discord, there is a Twitter account for Toast, and there is the Git repo.
Here's the Discord link up at the top. Let me just drop that straight into the chat. I'll bring back the sound eventually. It was getting so chaotic in here that I cut back on some of the noise. The overlay will be on GitHub. It's not right now. I'm working on a whole thing that I was calling Streamblitz. I'm now calling it Socket Studio. That is.
All right, I think I need adult supervision here.
I do need adult supervision. Yeah,
that was a random person in the Zoom call.
But anyways, Socket Studio will be coming out. It's a set of tools for streamers. But that's not on my the top of my priority list. So we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. With that, I think let's do one more shout to the sponsors. Thank you again to Whitecoat Captioning for providing the live captioning today. That's always available at lwj.dev/live. And that is made possible through the contributions of Netlify, Fauna, Sanity, and Auth0, who all kicked in some cash to help pay for the captioning, which I really appreciate. It makes the show more accessible to more people. Make sure you go check out their services. Also, make sure you go and take a look at what's coming on the show. We've got some really fun stuff coming on. Thursday, I am over the moon about this. Lynn Fisher is going to come on, and we're going to do one of her a single div projects together, and she's going to show us how she does it. I cannot wait. And we're going to make it a little bit spooky. I'm hoping. I'm going to wear a costume. I'm going to talk to Lynn and see if she wants to wear a costume. I hope that when you're watching in the chat that you wear a costume, and we'll all just wear costumes together and do something spooky. So much fun stuff. We're going to learn Nuxt. We're going to do an accessible audio player. It's just going to be all over the place fun. Make sure you go check out the schedule. Come hang out with us in the Party Corgi Discord, which is at Party Corgi. Wait, did I get that wrong? I got it wrong. Damn it. Just
Discord.gg/
I don't know. I can't type anything. Partycorgi.com. Just go to that website and join the Discord. Yeah, come hang out with us. Chris and I are in there all the time. There's a bunch of wonderful people in there. A lot of people in the chat today are regulars in that Discord. Whew. Anything else? What else, Chris?
What else? I don't know. You buy any cool onesies lately?
I've not bought any cool onesies. I'm really disappointed in the lack of cool onesies. Yeah, no, I think that's all. So Chris, thank you so much as always. Chat, stay tuned. We're gonna raid, and we'll see you next time.